In this video, we will be covering the basics of the Infoplus dashboard, site navigation, data tables, and building blocks. Before we dig into the dashboard, I do want to point out that all Infoplus customers will have access to both a production and test environment. To access your test site, you'll simply need to put a hyphen or a dash at the end of your Infoplus URL. For example, here in the Infoplus University site, if I wanted to navigate to the test environment, I would simply enter infoplusuniversity-test.infopluswms.com. And as you can see here, I am now in the test environment as indicated by the yellow banner across the top of the screen. The test sites are fully functional, so any new features or applications we roll out will be pushed to both the production and test environment. Our users will have access to both throughout the duration of their commitment to Infoplus. We highly encourage everyone to take advantage of this space for testing new features, trying new processes, or training new hires. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the dashboard. So the first thing you might notice here is the Welcome Infoplus support user. As you may have guessed, I am logged in here as the support user in the Infoplus University site. This is important because with Infoplus, everyone that has access to the site will be able to not only customize their dashboard, but also other areas of the system as well based on their functional role, what data they're interested in, and personal preferences. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of top to bottom, left to right here and explain everything you're seeing on the dashboard, starting with the logo up here in the top left, which is obviously the Infoplus logo. We do, however, allow for brand customization. So there is a logo page in Infoplus that you can go upload your own branding, and then it will show up here as well as other areas of the system. If you click on this logo at any time, it will take you back to the dashboard regardless of where you're at in the system, as will clicking on the home button here, the dashboard icon on the menu, or the dashboard breadcrumb here. All right, moving to the right, you're going to notice the quick search bar up here, which is exactly what it sounds like. This is just a quick and easy way to search the entire system for whatever it is you're looking for. This could be orders, items, phone numbers, zip codes, customer names, you name it. This is essentially the Google of Infoplus, right? It's a search engine for the entire system, and it will return any matching values that it finds. You can also just click on it, and it will return the most recently viewed applications and pages. So you can kind of get back to where you just were pretty quickly. To the right of the quick search bar is the green question mark. So if you click on this at any point in time, this will take you to our online knowledge base. So this is a very extensive collection of documentation for everything Infoplus. So you can literally type whatever it is you're looking for in the system, orders, items, or in our case, how to customize a dashboard. Right, so if I type dashboard, you can see all of the articles regarding the dashboard show up here. So if I were to click on the first one, for example, you can see here it's essentially covering what we're going through in this video, and it will tell you all of the pertinent links and other areas that you might be interested here that are related. So not only do we have the question mark at the top right of the system at all times, every page title will also include a smaller question mark, and this will take you to the corresponding knowledge base for the page you're on. So that'll be a quick way to navigate directly to the knowledge base for whatever it is you're doing. All right, the last thing up here on the very top would be the profile icon. So clicking into the profile just lets each user add an image, change their name, put a phone number in. You can also make some default settings. If you're working with a particular line of business, and you want to default that whenever you log in, or a particular warehouse. We also have some print settings, some scale settings. So this is just a place where every user can go up and set up their preferences for the system. All right, making my way down here. So the next thing you'll see is alerts. And I do want to point out, anytime you see a field or a title in Infoplus that you hover over and it turns green, this is what we call a tooltip. So for example, if I zoom in here for you, you can see alerts let you keep up on status and potential problems in real time. Favorite applications, get quick access to your most frequently used apps in Infoplus. A lot of the times we will also have knowledge-based links in these tooltips as well. So if you ever get to a field or something that you're not quite sure what it is, try to just click on it and you'll probably get a pretty good description or a link out to the knowledge base on it. So that's very helpful getting familiar with the system. So like I just mentioned, the alert here is just a way to kind of keep up on potential warnings or issues within the system. And these are our out of the box alerts. So you may notice we have some metrics down here that kind of do the same thing, kind of keep you clued into what's going on and what your data looks like. The alerts are out of the box, however, so if you click on the gear section over here and click Manage Alerts, you'll see all of the Infoplus generated alerts that we have. So I have gone ahead and added some of the most common ones, EDI connections, scheduled plans, scheduled reports, shopping cart connections, but you can see we have quite a few others. And what you're able to do with these is not only add them to your dashboard here, but you can also have this send out in an email if there's any errors or warnings. If you had any issues, you would either see a yellow caution sign saying, hey, you have a warning here, or a red X indicating that you do have an error. Right now in the Infoplus University site, you can see everything looks pretty good. You can, however, if you did have an alert, you could click directly on it, and that will take you to our alert page that will detail what happened, what's going on with it, and will allow you to acknowledge it once you've taken care of it. All right, the next section down is exactly what it sounds like. So this is just a quick and easy way to add the favorite applications. Once you get familiar with Infoplus, you'll know pretty quickly what you want to add to your dashboard for quick and easy access. And it just does just that, right? So if I wanted to quickly get over to my items, here's everything involving item management. If you want to go to orders, here's the two tables that we have for orders here. So beyond favorite applications, we have a couple other ways to navigate as well. So of course, we have the main menu icon over here. So I could always take a look at apps, for example, and kind of see everything in one page. You can navigate to reports. You can get to your mobile floor apps. So Infoplus does have an iOS or Android-based app, but you can actually emulate the mobile floor apps from a desktop computer as well. So you can click on that and get into the mobile apps. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, you can always click dashboard to go to the dashboard. And the insights tool here, this is currently locked. It is an upsell feature for Infoplus, but what this is AI and machine learning that will take a look at all of the orders in the system and make suggestions on how to process those to reduce footsteps, increase efficiency, things like grouping identical orders together, finding orders that have similar SKUs or like items, or that kind of have inventory in similar areas that would be just suggesting the best ways to go and pick those. So as far as actually navigating though, what you'll see Infoplus employees and the real Infoplus professionals using day in and day out is what we would call the quick actions menu. So at any point in time, if you click on the period key from your dashboard or from any part of the system for that matter, it's going to pull up what we call a quick actions dialog. If you can't get this to work, go ahead and make sure you double click into some blank or white space and then hit the period key and you should see this pull up. So the quick actions dialog box here, what this allows you to do is start typing for anything you want to find in the system. So for example, if I type the word item, you can see everything regarding items in Infoplus is now available to me. I can see item, item activity, item category, item receipt. This is permissions based. So if you are a user that does not have permission to one of these tables, you would not see it here. Or if you want to create like a customer portal and not give them complete access to the system, this is permission based by user. So I'm going to go ahead and click over to the item table. So in Infoplus, this is essentially the item master or the item catalog. This is all the potential SKUs or products that you might see within Infoplus. Doesn't necessarily mean they're in inventory. This is just the high level overview of each item here. So every table in Infoplus is structured the same, kind of in this table format where you have the ability to add or remove columns, add or remove filter options here, similar to Excel. So I'm showing you items here, but if I navigate to the order table, notice how quick I can navigate with this quick actions menu. It's the same idea, right? The same concept. You have all of these different columns and data points that you can either add or remove to your view so that you can really see the information that you need to see. If I go to locations, so all the tables are set up under the same format here. So navigating back to the item table here, like I just mentioned, every user has the ability to come in and add or remove data that they care about. So from the column dropdown on any table, you're going to see all of the different attributes that is available to that particular table. So for items here, you can see you can add lines of business, you can add the UPC, different descriptions, quantities, price points, right? So it's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, with all the options we give you. And you can also search this, right? So maybe I want to start looking for UPCs. I type the word UPC, and there's more than one option here. So I'm going to go ahead and click UPC, hit update. And now you can see UPC as a column that has been added to my view. And I can clearly see that I do have a couple items here with some UPCs. Just like you can add information, you can also remove, right? So maybe UPC isn't something I care to have in my view all day. So I can actually uncheck it, hit update, and now it's removed. So the other important feature that we have here are these filter options. And this is going to allow your team to build custom queries, custom filters, custom reports, just with a couple clicks of the mouse. So for example, you can see I have 56 total items showing in the Infoplus University site. And maybe I want to hone that down into just show me my out of stock items. So one of the fields we have, of course, would be overall stock status. So if I click in the filter option for overall stock status, and if your filter is not here, all you have to do is click this little pencil icon for adding or removing query criteria. And then all of those available fields will show up here. Custom fields are also available to add as columns and filter on if you were to create custom fields. Okay, so if I could click into the overall stock status here, you can see normal, low stock, or out of stock. So I'm interested in just the out of stock items. And you can see that's taken me from 56 to 42. But let's imagine I also want to know how many of these out of stock items do I have to actually get shipped out. So with Infoplus, right, we have something called open order quantity that will identify how much quantity that you have on open orders that has not yet shipped. So for example, if I click on this filter dropdown, every filter here is also going to have an advanced option. And now you can see I can do include only, I can do exclude, I can do does not equal, less than, greater than, between. So if I do greater than 0 and hit update, that would then show me any item I have that I have an open order quantity against that I don't have stock for, right? So it's going to show me some issue items I have. Before I do that though, I do want to show you some of these include only features where this is actually going to let you come in and add multiple values, or you can bulk add. So if you have, let's imagine, 100 different values selected from an Excel spreadsheet, you can bulk add those and paste them in here and filter for just those values all at once. So that's a really nice feature. I'm going to go ahead and just do greater than 0, hit update. And now you can see I've taken our 46 results down to 2. So there's only 2 items in our test or in our Infoplus University site that is out of stock that we have open order quantity against. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this as a smart filter. So if you click the Save As button at the top of your screen, you can now name this whatever makes sense to your organization or this user. So I'm going to call this out of stock items with open order quantity. Again, you could have, oh, it looks like I've already created that filter before. So I'm gonna name that something slightly different. Let's call it open order demand. So again, you can only name a smart filter the same thing once. So I'm going to go ahead and call this open order demand, hit save, and there we go. So now that I have a filter created, I can actually do a number of things with this. It does happen to drive quite a bit of functionality in the system. So if I go ahead and clear out my current filter, so I want to remove this and see all of my items. So you can see I'm back to 56. What I can do now is as soon as I get to this table, I can click on my smart filter dropdown, and all of the smart filters that are already created and exist under this user are going to be available here. So you can see I have a couple of out of stock item filters created. So the one I just created was open order demand. I can click on it. And now I have my filter set with the data that I care about. So instead of having to take time to go in there and set those filters each and every time, I simply go to my smart filters and I can click on what I'm looking for. Okay. Now, before I go back to the dashboard, I do want to point out the action menu on each table. This is going to show you what you can do with this table. So, you could do a quick export to Excel or PDF, kind of an ad hoc report. You can create barcodes from here. You can look at item velocity. You can change the status. You can, bulk edit, bulk load, bulk delete, bulk add tags. Quite a few options here from the action menu. And the checkboxes over here on the left-hand side are going to let you independently choose what items you want to update. Or if you want to update all of the items in your filter set, notice you're going to have a message right in the middle of your screen that says, hey, you currently have 20 records on this page selected. Select all 56. Or at the bottom, you can come here and choose to add more to your view. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the dashboard at this point. and come back to the metric section here that we have skipped over. So now that we've kind of covered some tables and we have a couple smart filters set up, what you're able to do with those smart filters is create metrics, user reports, and quite a bit of other functionality that we'll kind of get into here on the series as well. So first and foremost, if you want to add a metric based off of a filter you just created, all you have to do is go ahead and click on the gearbox here, click Manage Metrics. If you scroll down, you can hit the plus button. And what it's going to do is ask you what kind of metric do you want to build here. So of course we have single value, that's just going to give you a value. We have single value with an indicator that will put on the red X, the yellow caution sign, the green checkbox, or you can have a report value, which we'll get into here in just a second once we create some reports. So you can see an example of those right here, right? Total orders to ship would just be a single value, just tells you, here's your data. Whereas on ordered and fulfillable, you can see we have 3 of those. That meets our criteria, so it's a green checkbox, we're good to go there. Right here, we have one that's on order and partially fulfillable. So that might be something we want to take a look at. So partially fulfillable means we have some of the inventory for the order, but not all of it, right? So you might need to make a decision on, do you want to ship it complete, or do you want to go ahead and ship what you have and create a back order for the rest? So you can see some of the other metrics that we've gone ahead and put on here, but just to give you an example, I'll go ahead and create one with an indicator, hit next, and notice the first thing it's going to ask you is what smart filter is this metric driven off of? So from the drop down here, all of the smart filters that this user has currently created shows up under the smart filter options. And if I look for the one that I just created, which was out of stock with open order demand, you can see it gives me my value here. And then the user is able to specify what their warning and their error threshold would be. So for example, if I put a 1 and a 5, because we are at 2 between the threshold, it throws a yellow caution sign saying, hey, you might want to take a look at this, keep an eye on this. If I were to do 10 and 15, because I'm at 2, you can see it's a green checkbox all as well. So it's really user defined on how they want to use this and how they want it to capture their attention. If you're like me, I want to know anytime I have anything out of stock with open order demand. So I'm going to put in 0.5 and 1. Now you can see it throws a big red X that says, hey, you need to take action here. You have an issue. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add, hit done. And now if I scroll down, you'll see that I have a metric added here. And you're actually able to click and drag this around and reorganize your metrics so that you can have it in a way that makes sense to you. So again, those are metrics. You can also add report metrics, which I'll get to in just a moment. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I also want to point out that you can create a wallboard here just by clicking View Wallboard. So if you want to keep the entire company up to date with what's going on, maybe put this on a monitor or a television out in the warehouse, you can do so, and this will update in real time. So as the metrics and data changes, you'll see it flash and it will update every couple seconds here. All right, the next thing that we are going to cover on the dashboard would be user reports. So user reports are also a feature that is driven off of smart filter functionality. So if I click on the gearbox here, or if I use my quick actions menu and navigate to manage user reports, all you're going to have to do to create a report is hit create new. And we do have 2 options. Like most things in Infoplus, we give you options on how you want to go about this. So the first option is data report. It's just going to give you your data, right? Here's your 2 out of stock items that you have demand on, and here's the information you need. You can also do pivot reports. So if you're familiar with Excel pivot reports, you can do sums and counts and averages and mins and maxes. So maybe you want to know, by client, how many out of stock items do we have? Or this week, how many orders did we ship? How many orders went UPS versus FedEx? So with pivot reports, you can really get granular with your summaries. I'm going to go ahead and just create a data report for now. And notice the first thing it's going to ask again, what smart filter is this driven off of? Right, so your team is not going to need to know how to do SQL or coding or anything special. Just a couple of clicks of the mouse, and they're going to be able to create metrics and reports and a lot of other functionality that we'll get into. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the smart filter dropdown. Let's stick with the filter that we just created, out of stock with open order demand. You can go ahead and give that a name. And then right from this screen, you can actually add or remove information that you care about. So let's imagine I don't necessarily need my item category or subcategory. We know these are out of stock, so maybe I don't even need my on-hand or available quantity. And we'll go ahead and leave everything else on there. So I'm going to hit update. And what you can also do is organize and rearrange the columns from this view. So you can do SKU, description, quantity. You can just click and drag these in the order that you want them to come in. I'm actually going to remove unavailable as well. Okay, so from here, we do have the ability to put scripts on top of user reports. So scripts are one of those pieces of functionality that we'll get to here in just a little bit. But essentially, you can put custom JavaScript on the front end of your system to have it go and do whatever you want it to do, right? So if you wanted to join information from other areas, if you wanted it to calculate some math or some values and add columns to your report, you can do so through scripting. That's also something our professional services team can engage with you and help you get accomplished if you don't have the resources or the know-how to do so. So as far as creating this report, you can obviously preview it if you want to check it out before you hit OK, or in my case, I'm just going to hit OK here. And you'll see it create a report that you can then work with. So the report has been created, and now you can see report 11763 is out of stock items with open order demand. So now that I've created a report, I can actually do quite a few things with it. First and foremost, if I want to add this to my dashboard for quick and easy access, all you have to do is favorite the record. So if I click add to favorites, and if I quickly come back to my dashboard, now you'll notice out of stock items with open demand is on my dashboard. I can click on it and download it to PDF, Excel, or even a link that's good for 30 days that you can send out so someone else can download it. But one of my favorite features of this particular function is the subscriptions. So if you wanted to set this up to automatically send out to whoever needs to get this on a set frequency, you would do that using subscriptions here. So the share function, if you wanted to share this with other users within Infoplus, you can do that so they have access to it as well. But the subscription feature is how you can actually set this up to automatically send out to whoever needs to get this report. So, and you can actually create more than one subscription, right? So if you want someone to get it daily, someone else wants it weekly, someone else wants it twice a year, you can set up multiple subscriptions on any report and have that happen. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create new. And under the email recipients here, all you're going to have to do is type in whoever you want to get the email. So in my case, I'm going to put CeeLo@infopluscommerce.com. You can separate it by a comma and add more email recipients if you'd like to. The email subject here, you can choose what this is as well. So let's imagine this is a weekly report. So I'm going to call this weekly out of stock. I can type right, out of stock items with open demand. Again, whatever makes sense to your operation. You can choose to send if there's no results. If you leave it unchecked, right, if you don't have any out of stock items that week, you're not going to get an email from us. And then you get to tell us, when do you actually want to receive this email, or when should your recipients receive this email? So you can choose certain days of the week at certain times. You can do certain days of the month, right? The 1st, the last, the 30th. You can do certain weekdays of the month, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, or you can put it on a cron job, which lets you be as flexible as you want. You can go out there and Google cron generator, type in what you want, and it will spit you a code that you can paste in here, and then Infoplus will tell you if it's valid and what it will do. So in this instance, let's just imagine we want a, every Monday at 6 a.m. report. So when we get in for the week, we have that in our inbox. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send test email. So that way you can kind of see what this looks like. So within seconds, you should actually see the email land in your inbox. So if I pull my inbox into view here, you can see right at the top, I have Infoplus out of stock items with open order demand. I can get a view of the report right from my inbox here. And I also have the ability to download it to Excel or PDF right from the inbox here. So a really nice feature here of Infoplus. All right. All right, so clicking back into the dashboard, one other feature here before we get into the tags and smart filters and favorite records is if you're a shortcut user or a hotkey user, we do have a couple of those that you can take advantage of. So at any point in time, if you hit Shift ? It will pull up our keyboard shortcuts, and you can see here, I've already clued you into quick actions, which is the period key. You can also do quick search. You could do, if you're in an item, you can do E for edit, you can do D for duplicate, N for new. So it makes it very quick and easy to do things within the system. You don't have to go in and make a couple clicks. You can just hit the keyboard. Even going to dashboard, if you hit G and followed by D in sequence, that will go back to the dashboard no matter where you're at. Okay, so the last thing that we really need to cover on the dashboard would be tags and these favorite smart filters and records. So tags, exactly what it sounds like, right? It's just a way for you to go in and tag records in Infoplus to keep track of them together. So for example, let's say I wanted to go into an item. And let's say this Io Dusumu, we're big NBA fans over here at Infoplus. So let's say this Io Dusumu case of jerseys is something we want to keep track of. Maybe we do that by a tag, right? So if I go ahead and add a tag to this, and there are ways to automate tags, we'll get into that in just a little bit as well. I can either add an existing tab or I can create one. So maybe this is going to go on a special sale for jerseys that we have and we want to group those together. I can add the special sale jersey tag, hit OK. And now you can see it's been added to this record. What you can also do is favorite records. So it doesn't matter if it's items, orders, locations, customers, you name it. You can click into these records and click the add to favorites. And then you're going to be able to come back home and notice we have favorite records here. So we have our Io Dusumu case and we have our Io Dusumu record here. You can do the same with smart filters, recent applications. So, all these smart filters that we're creating, we do have a table to manage them in. So if you needed to change a name, delete, share them with other users, you can actually do that right through here. And you can also favorite these, right? So if maybe you're interested in expired inventory, you can favorite that smart filter. And right from your dashboard, you now have that as an option here. You can click on it and it runs that filter and takes you to that table with the inventory set. Perfect. So the next thing I want to cover real quick would be the Infoplus building blocks. So we've already covered a couple of them, but if I use my quick actions menu, I go to building blocks, you're going to see a couple features here. Again, we've already covered smart filters. You've seen user reports, but we have a few other features here that are pretty special to talk about, right? Some differentiators for us. So managing scheduled plans. In Infoplus, a scheduled plan is a way, another way just to automate things happening. So for example, if I hit create new, I can set up what we call fulfillment plans, right? Just kind of special ways to run all of your pick, pack, ship processes. So if you wanted to have Infoplus automatically kick off your fulfillment every day at 6 a.m. or maybe a couple hours, right? It's a smart filter driven functionality where you can create smart filters on your order table that say, hey, any orders that are in the status that look like this, we want to run through this fulfillment plan, and then you can set this up to be automated by Infoplus to go out and kick those off whenever you want to, just like these reports that I showed you. We have replenishment plans, right? Making sure your picking areas are always stocked with the inventory. That way users don't have to stop and go up, a couple of racks or go over to your storage area. You can do script plans. So we'll get into that in just a moment as well. But with Infoplus, you can put custom JavaScript on the front end to go do really anything. It's very customizable. You can add line items to orders. You can go update custom fields. You can create webhooks. There's just a host of different things you can do with scripts with an Infoplus. I would definitely employ you to go out to our example scripts knowledge base article and kind of take a look at what other people are doing and some of the most common things we're seeing there. And then, of course, if you're using our 3PL billing module, you can automate populating the billing data plan to making sure that we're pushing the data to the billing module when it's needed. So those are just a couple examples of scheduled plans here. So going back to the building blocks. So notice we have breadcrumbs that will tell you exactly how you got to where you're at in the system. So I'm going to go back one step to building blocks. And now I want to talk about bulk load profiles. So a bulk load profile in Infoplus is a way where you can bulk load any piece of data, right? So if it's items, orders, locations, you can actually take a spreadsheet and you can quickly bulk load those. And if it's a template or a file that you're repeatedly uploading, you can create a bulk load profile. So once you've mapped it, you can save it. And the next time you go to upload that, you can just say, hey, I'm using this profile, and Infoplus will know exactly what all the fields mean and how it should be mapped for you. And it makes bulk loading information very quick and easy. One of the other features we have here would be building blocks. Manage triggers under building blocks. So if I click into manage trigger, This is essentially a way to trigger an action happening based off of an event, right? And again, this is smart filter driven. So if I hit create new, the first thing it's going to do is ask me to, well, give it a name and description, but it's also going to ask me to select a smart filter. Kind of a good use case I have here is we could go create a smart filter on, let's say, any order shipping to California. So this is actually a real life use case that I had. We had a customer that was shipping products where anytime they shipped it to the state of California, they had to include a little placard with the Prop 65 statement, which is, the state of California knows this product may cause cancer, that sort of thing, that warning that they have. So we could create a smart filter for orders going to California. And let's go ahead and do that real quick, actually. So I'm going to navigate quickly over to the order table. And you can see here, just like the item table, I can come in and set up any kind of filter options that I want, right? Maybe I want to look at any order that's fulfillable or anything that's partially fulfillable, anything with a certain SKU, anything going to a certain carrier or a certain state, which is what we want to do here. So I'm going to add ship to state as one of my filter options here. And I'm going to say, show me anything that's going to California. So right now we don't have any of orders in our Infoplus University site going to California, but that doesn't matter, right? If we ever do see this, we want to have a trigger action happen on it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to also change my status to pending. So with Infoplus, when an order hits the system, it's going to be in a pending status for just a couple of seconds. And this is if you have any triggers or automation set up, it will happen before it drops to an on order status, which indicates to your team, hey, this needs to be picked and packed. So I'm going to go in the pending status, looking for anything going to California, CA here. So what I'm going to do now is create a quick smart filter, call this orders shipping to California. Maybe I put pending on here as well, just to know that it's in a pending status. So now that I have the smart filter created, I'm going to navigate back to my trigger table. And let's create a trigger on it. You can see we actually have that example set up here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that one for now and start fresh. So I'm going to hit create new. I'm going to call this add prop 65 to CA orders. Make that my description as well. And now what I'm going to do is choose that smart filter with the orders going to California. So what I get to also do is choose the event, right? So if I want to make this insert, that means anytime a new record or order is inserted into Infoplus and it meets the smart filter criteria, we want this trigger to run. We can also do update. So this would be more of a scenario where, maybe the original order came in to Utah and then the customer calls and says, hey, I actually need you to ship this to California instead. So you update the record or order, and then it meets your smart filter criteria. So you can have either or. So in our case, because we're looking at these that are pending, we're just going to do insert because this is only for new orders being inserted into the system. So I'm going to make this active and hit OK. So I have this trigger created, and notice you can actually click and drag these. So if you need a waterfall or have one trigger evaluated in front of another one, you can actually reorganize these. And what you'll need to do is then tell us what action should run whenever we find anything that meets the smart filter criteria. So if you click the actions icon, and just like with user report schedules, you can create as many actions as you need here. So to give you an example, I'll hit create new. You could automatically send an email, right? So maybe a certain customer orders and you want to be alerted to it, you can send yourself an email. You can tag records, you can untag records, you can add line items. So in the scenario that we were going through, the customer actually had a SKU in their system for Prop 65, and we would add that to the order, which would tell their team to go pick that and make sure it gets sent out with it. And we had a way to make sure the SKU didn't show up in packing slips or confuse the customer on, hey, I didn't order this, but it does show up internally for your team so that they can make sure they're picking it and abiding by the law. You could change warehouses, right? So maybe it's an East Coast versus West Coast situation, change carriers, change packing slip templates. Like I mentioned earlier, you can run scripts to go do whatever you think is best for the order, update custom fields. Maybe you want to evaluate, time in transit, make a couple web calls to a carrier and see, what is your fastest or, what warehouse makes the most sense and automatically change that warehouse, right? Instead of just basing it on filters. You can run pre-cartonization. So with Infoplus, as long as you have dimensions and carton data set up in the site, we can make suggestions on, hey, you should ship this in one box or maybe two small ones or this larger one based on cubic dimensions and volume. You can rate shop, right? If you're not rate shopping, you're probably losing money. So you can pin all of your different carrier services against each other to look for the fastest, the cheapest, or you can use a script here on top of rate shopping to build your own logic into that. And then finally, we have manifest scripts is really manipulating the data going back and forth between the carriers. So if you need to do custom letterhead or add something to your label, you can do that typically through a manifest script that gets sent off to your carrier and then reflected on your labels. So this is just a couple options. The actions will be different depending on what table the filter is set on, but this gives you kind of a good idea of what you can do here with some triggers. So if we were to complete this, we would say add line item, and let's say, prop 65 was the SKU and we wanted to add just one. So then we can go ahead and save that. I don't believe I actually have this set up as a SKU, but you could save that. Looks like we do actually. So you can save that. And now anytime a new order going to California shows up in the system, this trigger is going to run. All right, I think the last thing probably noteworthy about talking about would be the script table like we keep mentioning. So again, if I come to scripts, you can see a couple examples here. We have some barcode template scripts. You can, apply this to barcodes and go grab information from all over the system. You can, set ship complete, right? So you always want to make sure that your orders are shipping complete and not shipping partial. You can run a script to make sure that that field is always updated the way you want here in Infoplus. So just kind of a couple examples. If you click in here, you can see you actually get a little bit of a editor here where you can come in and actually set the record it should run on, and make things happen here. Again, I would definitely encourage you to go out to our knowledge base and look at some use cases and see how this is done, or engage with our professional services team to help you get where you want to be here. All right, well, that's all we have for the dashboard and the basics of data tables, navigating, and building blocks. So definitely take a look at the links that we have at the end of this video or in the description, and give us a like.